Hey, what's up, everyone? This is going to be a pretty quick video, just to kind of highlight an issue that I've been running across with my AMD GPU on Linux Kernel 6.4. So ever since my Fedora boxes upgraded to the kernel 6.4, I've been having some pretty bad frame rates. I first noticed this when I was playing Spider-Man. It just seems like after the 6.4 kernel, the performance was just terrible. There was just huge stutters. The frame rate was pretty low. I didn't think much of it, but I did end up having to switch to Windows to finish the game because the frame rates were so bad. Turns out, there's an issue that's tracking this. So this issue here is created by Pure, the user Pure here. And his issue states 6.4 kernel M clock stuck at lowest on RX 6900 XT. Now I'm running 7900 XTX. I'm running to the exact same issue. So it looks like the 6000 series and 7000 series graphics cards are affected by this particular issue. So the issue states that when I updated Linux kernel 6.4, my AMD GPU is now stuck at 96 megahertz M clock. Before it was always at max megahertz, which is 1000. At least the bug with the high power consumption of 4K 120Hz screens is fixed, but now it never goes higher than 96 megahertz, which means my games run now with lower performance. And I'm absolutely running into that same problem. Many of the games that I've been playing, just the performance has been terrible here. So if you look at what's happening in Tunic here, we can look at the Mango HUD UI, and you can see for the VRAM, it's reporting 96 megahertz. We go in and we try to update, change the settings. We try to turn off VSync. We try to reduce some of the settings so there's less processing going on to maybe get a better playable frame rate. Doesn't help at all. We finally changed it down to 1440p, and we can get playable frame rates, but it's nothing like what it should be for a game like Tunic. Now, Tunic is a nice looking game, but it's not very. It doesn't seem to be very GPU demanding. So there's no excuse for this game to be running as slow as it is if everything is working correctly. What I did find out, and this is through some of the different posts online, some of the different comments within this ticket here, is that if you change your refresh rate on your monitor, so if you go into GNOME settings or GNOME settings and change your refresh rate from, like in my case, it's 120 hertz to like 119 or lower, and then change it back, you will sometimes be able to work around this particular issue. This works probably 50% of the time for me. If that doesn't work, what I will do is after changing the refresh rate, I'll change the actual resolution down. So I'll go to, from 4K to 1440p. Then I'll just wait for it to time out and switch back to 4K. And then I can play a game, and oftentimes the refresh rate will be, the frame rate of the game will be much improved. So in this case, now looking at Tunic, after I've done that, you can see that the M clock for the VRAM is much higher. So 1200 megahertz versus 96 megahertz, and we're getting like 100 up to 120 frames per second in the game. The performance is much better at 4K. So again, this is just a quick PSA to say if you're experiencing this issue, there is a workaround. It's a known issue. I can't find consistently whether or not this is actually fixed in the newer versions of the kernel. So I'm still looking to see whether or not it's fully fixed, so you don't have to do the workaround. But you do have a workaround in place. There have been times where I did have to restart before I could actually get the workaround tab to work. But again, this is a lot to do to enjoy a game or something like that. I kind of have to go through and fiddle with this. But again, as a PSA, if you're encountering this issue with your AMD GPU, try to change the refresh rate, see if that helps. So, drop it down either permanently to something lower than 120 megahertz, and then try to switch it back. But yes, if you're running into this issue, change the refresh rate, maybe change the resolution, then change it back to see if when you start the game it's better. And until there's a full fix for it, you kind of have to do this workaround. But again, it's one of the blessing and the cursing of Linux gaming is that it's so good now. We're playing more and more games on Linux, through Proton, through native games. Like the graphics drivers are so good. that when something like this, does occur, it is fairly disappointing because I am so close to being completely Windows free, and this is one of those things. Being able to play the games that I enjoy on Linux, on my operating system of choice, is such an enjoyable time. So, again, just a PSA. Thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.